Coach DeBoer and AJ McCarron talk quarterbacks, plus some recruiting updates coming up on Ty Talk Live. Welcome into Ty Talk Live, powered by the Believe Network. I'm your host, Stacey Blackwood, with a cool show today as we look at what Coach DeBoer, what AJ McCarron, and those guys said yesterday at the Regions Pro Am there in Birmingham. They talked the quarterback situation. Coach DeBoer talked about the additions at tight end. He talked about some injury status. So we'll dive into all that here in just a moment. But before we do that, please make sure you do like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. We're closing in on a 3,000 subscribers, so help us reach that goal. Also, if you look beside the subscribe button, you see the join button. If you want to join the channel and receive exclusive perks, please consider doing that as well to show support to our show here at Ty Talk Live. As you see above, we're also on TikTok at Ty Talk Live, at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as well. So all those social media platforms, please give us a follow there, and we would greatly appreciate that. Also free and available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you want to subscribe there, if you love the audio version, we would appreciate a follow or subscription there as well. Now, before we dive into the show today, and as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at what Coach DeBoer said about the quarterback situation and other things as well. Also, AJ McCarron gives his thoughts on the quarterbacks, and so we'll look at what they each had to say. But before we do that, we want to hear from you guys. So if you're watching on YouTube, jump down in the comment section, give us a Y for yes or an N for no. Should Ty Simpson be QB1 going into fall camp? Like I said, Y for yes, N for no, and feel free to expand on your answer in the comment section as well. We would love to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions on that as we get closer and closer to fall camp, which is, I think, less than about 80 days away from this recording. So excited about that and can't wait to get there and dive into this football team longer. Now, I'll just give my quick opinion on it before we dive into the show. I think it's cut and clear that Ty Simpson should be at least receiving QB1 reps as fall camp gets underway. Uh, and I'm almost in line with what AJ said, so I'll get to that in just a second. But I do believe that Ty Simpson should be QB1. He's the elder statesman. He hasn't done anything to lose that positioning in the room ahead of Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. So uh, that's where I stand at it. Like I said, give us a Y for yes, N for no on whether you believe Ty Simpson should be quarterback one as Alabama enters fall camp in August. So excited to see what everybody says. That's a huge position to talk about. I know we're still in the month of May, so it's still a good ways away, but it's never too early to talk quarterbacks, especially when it comes to Alabama football. That's one of the most important positions in all of college sports, and everybody loves to talk about it. So excited to see what everyone says there. Now, we're going to start with Coach DeBoer's comments. We'll get to his quarterback comments down the road. I want to get to what he said about Alex Asperov, the freshman punter, because he mentioned, if you didn't know, he missed all of spring practice with an injury. But Coach DeBoer did give a promising update. He believes he's going to be ready for fall camp, which is huge news. Alabama needs a punter with the loss of I almost said J.K. Scott, of James Burnip to the NFL. So need a good punter. Alex Asperov is one of the top punters in the 2025 class. So excited that he's going to be healthy and available for fall camp, so he can kind of push for that starting punter position. So that's good news. Then Coach DeBoer also talked about the additions that Alabama made in the spring portal, which, if you remember, they didn't lose anybody in the spring portal, which is just massive news. That is huge. If you don't lose anybody in this era of college football to the portal, I don't care if it's the winter portal in December or here in the spring portal in the month of April, that is huge. And Alabama is one of the few teams in college football, I think the only team in the SEC, who did not lose anybody in this spring transfer portal window. But they did make a couple of additions. They added Brody Dalton, from a tight end transfer from Troy, and then Zach Samarco, a tight end transfer from West Virginia. And Coach DeBoer commented on those two guys, and it talked about the importance of adding those two guys to that tight end room, which experienced a ton of injuries in the spring. And with the loss of Robbie Oots and CJ Dupree, Coach DeBoer brought up how this room needed to add some physicality, add some size, to be able to withstand some blocking that has to be taking place. And when you get in the SEC play, you've got to have some big bodies there on the end line to block. So adding Brody Dalton, adding Zach Zamarco from West Virginia is huge for this tight end room because they add bigger bodies, physicality. You've got to be able to run the football, and you can't run the football effectively if you don't have some physical tight ends. So Coach DeBoer talked about how adding those two guys was huge for this roster as Alabama enters the summer. Now let's talk about what Coach DeBoer had to say about the quarterback position because anytime the media has a chance to talk to Coach DeBoer, they're going to ask him about the quarterback situation. It's such a interesting position, and with Jalen Milroe gone, uh, a lot of uncertainty at this position for Alabama. This position is going to take this team where it wants to go. If this position can succeed, this team can be successful. And Coach DeBoer even talked about that yesterday at the Regions Pro Am there in Birmingham. You'll have to excuse me, guys. I'm battling a little bit of a sinus issue, and I need water as much as possible. But Coach DeBoer was asked about the quarterback situation, and he kind of reiterated what um, Ryan Grubb said after the spring practice wrapped up, and that if a game was played tomorrow, Ty Simpson would be quarterback one. He's kind of earned that right as the elder statesman in the room. He played well in the spring, and so Coach DeBoer just said, "Look, if we play a game tomorrow, Ty Simpson's our guy." And I want to mention this about Ty. It's so easy to lose sight of what Ty Simpson was as a prospect coming out of high school because he is entering his fourth year, and we haven't seen a lot of him. So when you don't see a guy for a few seasons, you subconsciously make yourself believe he's not a good player. And the truth is, he had to sit behind Bryce Young, then he had to sit behind Jalen Milroe. Bryce Young's a starting quarterback in the NFL, was the number one pick in the draft. Jalen Milroe was taken in day two of the NFL draft, and he's not going to be the starter for Seattle, but he's probably going to be that backup guy. And from everything we've heard, he did a really good job at the rookie minicamp. So he sat behind two NFL guys, uh, and now he has an opportunity to win the job. And don't forget, Ty Simpson was a five-star prospect coming out of high school. Now, it took him a while to develop and catch up to the speed of the game in the SEC because he played at a smaller school in the state of Tennessee, but he was a five-star quarterback. So what does that mean? We talk about everybody talks about five-star prospects, but what does that actually mean when you kind of unfold the layers? Well, to me, in order to be a five-star prospect at the quarterback position, you better have some tools. So, what are Ty Simpson's tools? Well, first of all, he has a well above average arm and he has well above average accuracy. Those are the two most important things you need to have as a quarterback. And then you look at the other traits that he has. He's more than capable of making plays with his feet. Now, he's not Jalen Milroe. He's not going to run a 4-3. He's not gonna blaze by the entire defense, but he has more than enough athleticism to make plays within the pocket and outside of the pocket as well, and we saw that, in year before last when he, nearly took it 78 yards for a touchdown before he dropped the ball, before crossing the goal line. So Ty Simpson is a toolsy player. He was a five-star prospect for a reason. So don't lose sight of that. Don't forget that. It's easy to look at the new guy coming in at Keelan Russell, a guy coming in Austin Mack who's 6'6", 240, and just looks like the next elite NFL quarterback. Ty Simpson's a player too. He was a five-star prospect for a reason. He has tools. So I have faith that Ty Simpson can do a really good job leading this Alabama offense and do a really good job of executing what Coach DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, Nick Sheridan, and this offensive staff wants him to do this fall. So I think I'm right along with what AJ McCarron said because he chimed in. He was at, of course, the former two-time national championship winner. I think he finished in the top three or so in the Heisman Trophy voting. An Alabama legend. AJ McCarron was at the Regions Pro Am as well and was obviously asked about the quarterback situation, him being a former Alabama quarterback as well. And he just kind of made it the statement that it's Ty's job to lose. In his opinion, it was Ty's job to lose. And the reason he said that is that, he's put the time in, he's put the work in. He's entering year four. He sat behind two guys that are now in the NFL. He's put in the work. He knows what it takes to be a starting quarterback at Alabama. And then he also mentioned something that I don't think enough people put emphasis on. the team rallies behind certain guys. And whether you agree with it or not, and that's a different discussion for a different day, the team rallied behind Jalen Milroe the past 2 seasons. That's why he never was relinquished of that starting role, besides being a really freakish athlete. But the team loved Jalen Milroe, and this team is slowly starting to love Ty Simpson and follow his leadership. That's huge, and that's a huge piece of the puzzle. Whether you want to believe it or not, that is a huge piece of the puzzle. And AJ McCarron mentioned that Ty Simpson has the respect of his teammates, which is massive news going in this summer and going into fall camp. So AJ McCarron, Coach DeBoer both believe right now it's Ty Simpson's job to lose. He's the guy leading the pack. And like I mentioned a minute ago, we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Why for yes and for no? Should Ty Simpson be QB1 for Alabama? Can't wait to read the comments there. That's going to be a fun discussion. Before we dive into some recruiting news, like I said, please subscribe, hit that like button. We are powered by the Believe Network. Believe Network has a massive amount of shows on all the teams that you could think of. They even have some shows on stuff outside of the sports world. So just go to believe.com and you can find a lot of interesting shows, whether it's sports related or not, on that network. So proud to be a part of the Believe Network. So let's talk some Alabama football recruiting. The 2026 class is about to start finding itself. It's really starting to find its groove. If you remember around this time last year, Alabama was still still sitting with just a handful of commitments. It's the same thing right now, and now things are going to be changing relatively soon. At the end of this month and throughout the month of June, 2026 prospects will be making their official visits around the country, including Alabama. And there's going to be a ton of dudes on campus in Tuscaloosa. And like I mentioned, that's going to start at I think the last weekend of May and run through basically the entire month of June. And Alabama has plenty of talented guys coming in to visit on throughout the next couple of months. So let's before we dive too deep into that, I do want to say first of all, if you want to know about visits and who's coming and when, Tim Watts and Andrew Bone over at BOL, they do a great job of kind of keeping track of who's coming and when. So I would definitely check those guys out. Um, and before we kind of look at some players to keep an eye on, let's kind of look at where Alabama's at right now. You know, currently according to On3's ranking, Alabama's ninth in the country in recruiting. But I want to get some context here. They only have 5 commitments. Everybody else that's ranked ahead of them has 8 or more. So Alabama is right now is at a quality of prospect standpoint more than quantity. So just when you see the rankings and you see they're not inside the top 5, don't sweat it. They only have 5 commitments right now, but that's going to change. I think once you look at the rankings at the end of July, you're going to have a better idea of where this team's at in the 2026 class. So, quality over quantity right now is what Alabama is focusing on. Like I said, everybody has at least 8 verbal commitments that is ranked ahead of them. In fact, no, only one team in the country has a better player average rating than Alabama, and that's LSU. So, Alabama, like I mentioned, is quality over quantity as we sit here in the middle of May in terms of the 2026 recruiting class. So a commitment here, a commitment there, and Alabama can move way up the list in terms of the recruiting rankings right now. So no need to fret about that. So right now the class is small, but these official visits are going to start rolling in and commitments will begin to happen as well. And Alabama's in prime position to move up and finish once again inside the top 5. I think they finished number 3 overall in 2025. I'm expecting them to kind of be in that neighborhood again for the class of 2026. So let's take a look at a handful of guys on each side of the ball that I think are recruits that Alabama fans need to know about. We'll start offensively. Of course, when you sign a quarterback like you do in Keelan Russell, it's going to be hard in the next cycle to find another 5-star dude. It's just the era we're living in with NIL and stuff like that. It's just going to be hard to find a dude like that. Now, the coaching staff would like to find a high school quarterback, but if they can't find a dude they like, they're probably going to pivot to maybe the transfer portal and maybe find somebody there in December. So quarterback position is something to watch. They're probably only going to get one guy from high school if they get any. And if they don't get somebody from high school, they'll get somebody from the portal. Now, the running back position, of course, Xavier Crawwell, the number 2 back, 5-star prospect from Jackson, Alabama. Alabama's in really, really good shape with them. They would like to sign another dude. A guy that we're looking at right now is Javari Barnett, who is currently committed to Illinois. He's teetering between a 3 and 4-star prospect from the Tampa, Florida area. So that's a name to watch as well. Wide receiver, I'm thinking they maybe sign 2 guys here. Of course, Sadarian Morgan, the 5-star guy from Benjamin Russell High School in Alabama. Right now, he's scheduled to commit on July 2nd. I think if he commits right now, it's Alabama. A big dude at 6'3", 6'4", over 200 pounds, who has a chance to be a special, special player. Another guy, Booby Feaster, a really talented player from DeSoto High School in Texas, a name I'm watching as well. At the tight end position, right now, the name that I think is the hottest is Roman Voss, who's a 4-star athlete. He's listed as an athlete, the top player in the state of Minnesota, but is being projected as a tight end. Alabama seems to be in really good shape with him, and they'll get him on an official visit as well. Offensive line, I would say they're going to sign between 3 to 4 guys there. They already have a commitment in Chris Booker, a 4-star guy from Atlanta. Really like him. Uh, then you have guys like Sam Utu from California. You know they're going to recruit the West Coast. This coaching staff is so. I expect a handful of guys there along the offensive line. I don't think you'll see 2 5-star prospects like a Michael Carroll or Jackson Lloyd in this class, but you're going to see some quality pieces picked up along the offensive line in the class of 2026. Defensive line, couple commitments so far. Jamarian Matthews from Georgia, Kamarian Johnson from Muscle Shoals, Alabama, are already committed to Alabama, and I would expect them to sign a couple more guys there along the defensive line. I like Elijah Golan from Florida. There's several guys, Titan Davis, Tyson Beacon from Hoover High School is a guy that Alabama's looking at. JJ Finch from Indianapolis. So there's a handful of guys there along the defensive line with a couple commitments already. I would expect a couple more guys to commit along the defensive line. Then you look at those outside linebacker positions, whether it's the Wolf, the Bandit. You got to start with Anthony Tank Jones, the 5-star guy from Mobile. He could play either Wolf or Bandit. Alabama likes where they're at right now. Got an official visit coming up, and if Alabama can pull this off, along with an Xavier Griffin who recently decommitted from USC and lined up an official visit with Alabama from Gainesville High School in Georgia. If Alabama could land both those dudes, that would be an exceptional outside linebacker class for this defensive staff. Then you look at the inside linebacker position. This is a little interesting. Sincere Johnson, a guy from Ohio. Of course, Alabama pulled a Justin Hill from Ohio last year. If they could get a Sincere Johnson, who does have an official visit lined up with Alabama, that would be a massive pull for that off-ball linebacker position. Then you look at cornerback. They have a couple commitments so far from 2 top 100 players. Jordan Edmonds, a 5-star guy from Georgia, and then Zion Gibson, another top 100 player from Gadsden City, Alabama. 2 elite corners already committed in this class after an elite class last year. They're still in it for Brandon Arrington, the number 1 corner from California. Elbert Hill, who's currently committed to USC, but Alabama is going to continue to pursue as well. So this corner class has a chance to be elite once again. And then the safety position, probably going to sign 1 or 2 guys there. Jet Washington from Bishop Gorman. Of course, they get Derek Meadows from Bishop Gorman last year, so that's a name to watch. Daryl Trey Bell's a name to watch as well. So plenty of talent Alabama's pursuing in the 2026 class. And, a lot of those guys that I mentioned have official visits lined up already with Alabama over the next couple months. So plenty of reason to be excited if you're an Alabama fan about this 2026 class. I think it has a chance to finish once again inside the top 5, if not the top 3. So Coach DeBoer and his staff are putting in the work on the recruiting trail and doing a great job of building a strong class in 2026. But that's going to wrap the show up today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, smash that like button. Share us with your friends, your enemies, your neighbors, whoever. Tell them about Ty Talk Live. Give us a like, a thumbs up, and turn that bell notification on so you don't miss any of our content here at Ty Talk Live. But thank you, so guys, for so much for watching. We'll see you real soon. Roll Tide.